Ah, there she is.
It's like a eureka moment to actually discover something that we thought was lost forever.
To be able to even touch these stones, to me, is something that gives me a lot of joy, and I feel honored to be able to do.
You know, it's a dark stain on the history of the world. You know, we still got a ways to go. You know, there's still people being enslaved all over the world. So.
Yeah, there it is. I can feel it there.
I'm here at the Victoria Lawn Cemetery in St. Catharines, Ontario, and here they are uncovering the gravestones of people who fled slavery in the United States more than 100 years ago. And I'm wondering why bringing that history into today, why that matters.
All right, I think we're ready to start.
It's early morning, and Adam Montgomery and Alan Ernest think they've located a forgotten gravestone.
I'm just probing. It's a bit like an archaeological excavation. We want to make sure that we're well beyond the margins of whatever's there.
Alan is an expert on gravestone restoration. He's worked in cemeteries for 30 years. And he explains that the headstone they're looking for was probably neglected, and when it fell over, the ground slowly swallowed it up. He wants to uncover it so people know about those buried in the ground below.
Well, you think about the journey that the freedom seekers had throughout their lives, and you know, the horrendous things that a large majority of them would have been subjected to before heading onto the Underground Railroad and that Freedom Trail.
That looks actually in pretty nice shape. Let's see if that is. Oh, look at that.
Yep.
I think that is
There you go.
nice and loose.
That's good.
Adam cleans the gravestone and checks for any cracks or damages. He's a historian who studies graveyards.
See the word Mary on it pretty clearly here.
You know, as you're uncovering this, what are you thinking about?
I was just thinking about how we're literally uncovering a history here. Like, this is, you know, history that's been buried for a long time here. So for me, this is a chance to be a part of something special.
The gravestone they uncovered belongs to Mary Hutchinson. She was enslaved in Maryland, and when she escaped to Canada, she worked to help others gain their freedom too. Mary Hutchinson's heroic life is just one example of what historian Rochelle Bush has spent years trying to get people to know about. She combed through local church archives and researched graveyard maps to find out where former slaves were buried in her hometown.
So as a kid, I did not learn about Black history in public schools, not in museums, not in any public spaces. So outside of our own homes, we couldn't go out and learn anything about us. We weren't celebrated, we weren't recognized. And it matters because we are an important part of the development of this great country, the same way as white people, but we're not recognized for that.
Rochelle believes there are about 50 former slaves buried here whose gravestones have been lost. The team plans to uncover as many as they can, including one gravestone that has a personal connection for Adam. He is the direct descendant of a freedom seeker.
You know, one of the things that might surprise people with my involvement in this project is the way I look, right? I'm white. And on my mom's side, we have Armenian ancestors and we have African-American ancestors on the other. So I think our family might be a good example of how people might not always look like you expect them to, and I think, you know, I have an interest in this despite what I look like.
I think it's kind of interesting the way it sunk too, that it almost went straight down, right?
In pretty good shape, I think.
Yeah, it looks good.
This is my great-great-grandmother, who was a pretty amazing woman. She was an abolitionist in her own right as well, and feels pretty amazing to be able to bring this stone back to its original state and to have my mom here. And so, yeah, it's very, very special. Sorry.
It's our hearts, I guess maybe that's the way to put it. And I know my dad would be absolutely over the moon to see that Adam was doing this for his family and him as well.
It's family, and this is part of our history we've always been proud of. And yeah, it's just very special when it's your own kin and something you feel a connection to.
There are.
And you can still see the tool markings on the side here and right here.
Adam tells me there's a reason beyond his personal connection for why he does this, and how even though the people buried here died generations ago, their stories are relevant today.
A lot of the same questions that have been dealt with throughout time are still dealt with today. Things like prejudice, things like how do we deal with someone who's different than us, whether it's race, religion, and how do we learn to live together, and all these kind of big questions. And I think a project like this can help people be inspired to want to think differently about their own lives.
There's one gravestone in particular the team believes can inspire people. John Lindsay overcame the longest possible odds. Though he was born a free man, he was abducted and enslaved when he was just 7 years old. He eventually escaped to Ontario and became a prominent businessman. Okay, so what's the goal right here?
To find John Lindsay. We hope he's here, and you know, we've done all the research. We now have a sense. We've probed, so we're hoping that this is it. This is the spot.
There's our edge right there, Adam.
Yeah.
So you were right.
So that's John Lindsay's stone there.
That's John Lindsay stone, yeah.
What's the biggest challenge now?
Getting the stone up safely, so we don't damage it in the process.
This right here, clasped hands. So it's hard, you know, you got to use your imagination a bit because it's still dirty. But so this is a sleeve here, right? This is a cuff. And this is the right hand. This is a thumb here, and this is the left hand coming across, like a parting handshake.
Oh, look at this. It's an issue.
The team is excited they found the gravestone, but there are signs that it's damaged.
So we have John Lindsay uncovered now, and unfortunately it's broken into more than 25 pieces. So the disappointing part is we won't be able to get this stone back upright.
Still, Alan rebuilds the stone as best he can, putting the pieces together like a jigsaw puzzle.
It's very disheartening to see that the stone is in many pieces, but I'm grateful that they'll be able to do something with the stone so that it'll be visible and people will be able to look at it, even if it's in many pieces.
Yeah, they're going to come up separately. It's fully broken.
Rochelle says they'll display John Lindsay's stone in a specially made box lying on the ground.
That's what we expected, but
The team says that the state of John Lindsay's stone points to a bigger challenge. The clock is ticking. If the graves of freedom seekers aren't found and preserved, they could be gone forever. And in a world where increasingly people mistrust almost everything, physical proof, like the headstone of a former slave, is important.
This is the most important discovery for me. John W. Lindsay. Here at Victoria Lawn Cemetery. Can you believe it, Adam? We never forgot about you, Brother Lindsay. Absolutely.
So, Nick, I think we should note that all the expenses so far here have been covered by a GoFundMe account. What happens next?
Yeah, I mean, remarkable people, dedicated people. So what happens next is once the 50 or so gravestones are located, they're pulled out of the ground, as we saw, cleaned, they'll be displayed as best they can. Then the team hopes to create the very first underground railroad cemetery walking tour in the country. So you'll be able to go to St. Catharines to the cemetery, download an app, and you'll be able to go and see all the gravestones and learn about the incredible lives of the men and women who escaped slavery in the United States and came to Canada.
That's terrific. Thanks, Nick.
You're welcome.